Hi, welcome. This is Mary Ellen on Thursday, March 12th, 2020. Welcome to the faithful who are here every day and interact with us in the chat, and welcome to anybody new. We're glad to have you. Um, I have no further update other than what I told you about Larry yesterday, that his situation is continuing as it has been, and it is grave, pun intended, grave situation to be considering because of, whatever his level of extreme need is. And it is extreme, folks. This has been going on for a very long time without being able to hear or talk to him or know what's going on. I was able to hear him breathing last Tuesday, and I assume it was him that I was hearing, but he couldn't say anything, and his level of care is worse than it was when I had the phone up to his had somebody hold the phone to his ear. So I hope I'm talking loud enough for you to hear me. Sorry, I dropped my voice. Get a little concerned about Larry. I'm waiting for Elly to join us. I just raced in the door. And welcome, you guys. Glad to have you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to have you here. I just raced in the door, so I was late getting the connection to Elly. So she'll be here as soon as she can. I haven't heard from. We haven't talked today, she and I. And my update is I've got multiple people coming tomorrow. Welcome, you all. I've got multiple people coming tomorrow to give me information on what it's going to cost me to move. So that's kind of scary. Hey, I want to share, with something that I have heard actually multiple people saying. We don't need to be afraid. We're told in Philippians 4, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, make your requests known to God, and the peace of God that passes all understanding will guard your heart and mind. And believe me, with what I've been through this last year, I understand the temptation to feel fear, the temptation to feel panic. And when feelings come, we can control them. But what comes initially, we have no control over. What happens. Your feelings come, but then we have to make a mental decision to take control of the emotions. If you can control fear and live in faith in God who loves us and is our refuge, then you are going to boost your immune system with fear. If you give in to you're going to boost your immune. I can talk. You're going to boost your immune system through faith. If you live in fear, you are giving the devil, the demons, a foothold. A spirit of fear overtaking you is going to give the demons an open door to cause trouble. And I know you don't want that. Boy, don't you just have prettiest ruffles around your neck. I love all those caps you have.
Do you ever see what I wear from the waist down, though?
Oh, no, I don't need to see that.
I wear, my family says, you look really good from the waist up.
Hey, whatever. So I was listening to something really good about 3 hours ago, and I didn't get to hear the whole thing, but I am going to strongly recommend. This is wonderful. It's Dave Hodges' Common Sense Show has an interview with Lynn. Forgive me as I take my jacket off. May end up be putting it back on. This is weird weather. I'm kind of in between being too cold and too hot, and so if I'm back and forth moving a lot, that's why. Dave Hodges interviewed Lynn Liaz on the Common Sense Show on YouTube. It was posted this morning, and it's called How to Unleash Your God-Given Powers. And that sounds a little more new agey than it really is, but it's a 50-minute interview. worth listening to. I've only heard the first 7 minutes, but those first 7 minutes were really worth hearing, and I can't wait to get back to hear the rest of it. Linda, I agree with you that this virus should be taken seriously. You know, when you think that Maryland went from 3 and 2 days later 5 and 2 days later 7, and I haven't heard where we sit now, but I just was told, I just realized Pennsylvania has shut down all schools, and I just saw that 5 minutes ago. Yes, Chris, fear, false evidence appearing real. That's a great. I forgot the word where each letter represents something. There's a word for that. Brain freeze. And sorry, there I go, swallowing and inhaling at the same time. Sorry about that. You know, if it is doubling, of course it starts small, but then, you know, as it doubles, if it keeps doubling, then the numbers can go very big very quickly. So I know in Maryland, I haven't gotten an update on what the universities are planning to do, but I do understand that the universities in Maryland were told not to come back and to do online courses for the rest of the semester after spring break. So the kids spring break, I think, starts today, and they may have had a couple yesterday and today off and then told to do online. I know I just heard on my way home 20 minutes ago that Virginia's governor has called for a state of emergency for Virginia. And there are a couple of cases, you know, just outside of DC. I understand Trudeau's wife is sick, and so he's put himself under quarantine. Ted Cruz is self-quarantining, and I understand there's at least 3 congressmen, and I don't know which house they're in, House or Senate. But you know, one of the vice presidents in Iran has coronavirus. We know Tom Cruise and his wife have it down in Australia. You know, the elite are not totally immune, and you know, they have to be careful. And CPAC, certainly there was somebody there who got sick. Now, whether it's coronavirus or not, I haven't heard. But, you know, we have to be careful. I was just reading a text from a nurse friend of mine in West Virginia that her car wouldn't start, so she took the bus into town to get groceries and a few other supplies like non-latex gloves because she's allergic. Acronym, thank you, James. That's what I was thinking. Fear, masquerading. Let's see, what was it? Chris put it in here. The acronym FEAR, false evidence appearing real. Yeah, the acronym. Thanks, James. I knew somebody would remember what it was called. I knew that. I just couldn't, you know, I'm not thinking in that vein. My head's somewhere else right now. Anyway, I had some things that I wanted to read from my time in the Word this morning. So I'm going to start with Psalm 120. I'm going to read some of the verses. I call on the Lord in my distress, and he answers me. Save me, O Lord, from lying lips and from deceitful tongues. And so that is a prayer that I have for us to be saved from deceit and lies from the media and from, you know, whatever is being put out there, you know, to read. I haven't read Dean Koontz's book, but he put something out in 1981 saying in 2020 that some virus was going to be taking over the world. So, you know, how much of this has been preordained and orchestrated by the powers that be, you know, we don't have proof of that, but whatever. Verses 3 and 4 of Psalm 120. What will he do to you, and what more besides, O deceitful tongue? He will punish you with the warrior's sharp arrows, with burning coals of the broom tree. And then 6 and 7. Too long have I lived among those who hate peace. I'm a man of peace, but when I speak, they are for war. Well, I'll tell you, what a contrast between President Trump and the elite legislators, the Democrats. warmongering versus, our president being a man of peace. So I just thought of him and was praying for him, that scripture as well, thanking God that we have a president who doesn't want to waste our resources with our young men and women having to go to war. Now there's all kinds of rumors going on about what's really going on behind the scenes and what's really happening. I have to take this call and just let her know. Maria, I'm going to have to call you back after my program, okay? Okay. All right, bye. My real estate agent. So I'll call her after we're done. The lying lips and war versus peace. Now then, Psalm 121 verses 7 and 8. Okay, no, that was Psalm 130. How'd that happen? I turned over a whole bunch of pages at once. Sorry about that. Psalm 121 verses 7 and 8. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and going, both now and forevermore. And when I read that this morning, I actually said a prayer for all of you, that the Lord would keep you from harm, from the harm that is going, that they're trying to orchestrate, that they are trying to do to us. That in our president, I still believe that he is doing his best as a man who loves, a president who loves our country and cares about the people, that he's doing the best he can. Now, whether this is a viral issue or a financial issue, we know it's both medical and financial, certainly, and what's happening socially. So I encourage y'all to be careful, but we know where our faith and trust is. And I expect the markets will rebound, as Chris is suggesting. And, we still haven't gone below where we were when Trump took office. So we're still in black territory. So Pelosi having a giddy laugh. I didn't listen to her this morning. I just couldn't face it. I was busy doing something and answering the phone and so on. So now my real estate agent can wait an hour. She knows what I'm doing. So I'll talk to her afterwards. So we know that they're just trying, they're running out of ammo to try and come against the president. And so they're just doing everything they can to keep things going through the year. And we knew that was going to happen. Larry told us it would happen. He told us in July 2016, a week before the Republican convention, that if they allowed Trump to be president, they would be coming after him with impeachment or assassination or something, that he is not one of them. And they do not want him in office. And so, he prepared us for this. So, and we don't want to be giving in to fear, because then you are giving power to the devil, and you don't want to be doing that. So, Psalm 123, 3 and 4, have mercy on us, O God, have mercy on us, for we have endured much contempt. We have endured much ridicule from the proud, much contempt from the arrogant. And, I was praying for Larry as I read those verses, because of the contempt he has had to deal with since he chose to start doing the right thing. And, we know God has forgiven him. He knows God has forgiven him. We have heard publicly his confession of faith and his prayer on behalf of his enemies. Psalm 125, verses 3 to 5. The scepter of the wicked will not remain. Be encouraged by this, folks. The scepter of the wicked will not remain over the land allotted to the righteous. I loved that. The land allotted to the righteous. I know it's talking about Israel. This is a psalm of a sense, which would have been probably written by one of the priests or the musicians. But we know that our country, particularly in the Massachusetts colony, Plymouth colony, that they were here with the intent for freedom to worship God. And so we know that even our land was allotted to the righteous. It was intended this way. So I claim this verse for us. The scepter of the wicked will not remain over the land allotted to the righteous, for then the righteous might use their hands to do evil. Look what's happened with the wickedness that's going on, and how many churches are supporting sexual deviance and the shedding of innocent blood with abortion. I cannot believe how many churches are lining up with the wicked. And it says, okay, verse 4, do good, O Lord, to those who are good, to those who are upright in heart. But those who turn to crooked ways, the Lord will banish with the evil doers. And don't forget that judgment begins first with the house of the righteous. So Larry told us, I'm reading a comment here. Larry told us Antifa did the Las Vegas massacre. The globalists did it. Larry told us they think they will pull out Tim McVeigh if this doesn't work. Well, there is a great risk of something major happening, but of course the coronavirus and the what's going on economically and financially is certainly, a type of 9/11 type thing. So let's see, what else did I have? Now, don't forget, a couple days ago, I talked about Psalm 106, where it talked about the trouble that came on the nation, the people in the desert as they were going from Egypt to when they're in the wilderness, going to Canaan, and after they had been sent back to wander for 40 years. God got angry and sent a plague. And in Psalm 106:23, first you've got Moses pleading on behalf of the people, and God backs off. And then in verses 30 and 31 of Psalm 106, the plague hits again for another disobedience, and Phinehas, the high priest, goes through with his censer and stays the plague, and God turns from destroying them. And last night on our conference call, Chris shared Ezekiel 22:30, where it talks about looking for somebody to stand in the gap. And he pointed out last night that you have to have a hedge in existence before you have a gap to stand in. And that the hedge is the Word of God. And the Word of God needs to be active in our lives. And it just struck me again, the scripture that I talked about yesterday, in talking about how God prepares. Jesus said, I go to prepare a place for you. There's preparation that's necessary. God talks about preparing. And if in order to stand in the gap, you have to have planted and watered and developed this hedge. It doesn't just happen automatically. So anyhow, we need to be preparing for our own protection. And that is all the news that I have to share with y'all. So Elly, you can take it away, and I'm going to scroll back up and see what I missed in the chat while I was jabbering.
There was one about Antifa and Las Vegas. I'm going to have to look into that, because Antifa did at one time was talking on their own site about having guns. And they did show up at one of the Portland, I believe it was Portland, rallies where Paul Joseph Watson showed up, and they had guns. So I wouldn't put that one past Soros to do that. But that's something I'm going to kind of look into, because it would make a lot of sense for the shooting. It really would, because they did see a few others in dark clothing with guns that was another window that was, who was it? I think it was something Frank posted that. So I know, don't touch my face.
I know, there I am scratching my, with allergy trouble, it's just hard to keep my hands away from my face. But I did just wash my hands thoroughly. So Sherry, I've seen that YouTube video with Sid Roth reading a vision from a rabbi that says, God allowed the virus, urged President Trump to call for a national day of prayer. We could be calling the president, the White House, and asking for that, And that number is 202-456-1111. 202-456-1111. That's the White House. Now, remember, I told you last month that somebody has called for a daily minute of prayer at 7 Eastern every night. And I have set my alarm to go off at 7 Eastern every single night, 7 days a week. And Cindy Jacobs has called for a National Day of Prayer, but I haven't heard what day, if she has chosen one, or if she's just trying to encourage us to call the White House and ask the president. We know we have one the first Thursday of May every year, but we need this before then. We need a day of prayer before that. So, and if anybody wants to join me in prayer immediately after we're done with this program, the conference call number is at the bottom of the description box down below here, and call in and we'll just have prayer for our country, for our president, and of course for Larry. We never forget that. So the president spoke while we were having our conference call last night, so thankfully it was rebroadcast immediately afterwards, so I caught the tail end of it and then was able to listen to the rest. You know, I'm proud of the job he's doing. So, okay.
I listened to Pence this morning, and he was saying that if you think you have the coronavirus and you go into your doctor, that every health department in every state has got these tests. So that was the big one with a lot of the doctors. And that yesterday, I think even Oz and Drew were saying the test. Well, Pence has reassured us now that all the health departments in every state has got these tests now.
Denver,
personally,
Elly, hang on, sorry. Denver, I just read Pam in our chat, not today. I haven't seen her yet here today, but she just posted, I saw it just before I came online here, that Denver has a drive-through coronavirus test you can take. And the president announced last night that in his meeting with the heads of the pharmaceutical company, that the tests are going to be free, and the any copay for the testing and treatment will be waived.
You know, it'd be a really smart idea is for Walgreens and Walmart pharmacies to run this like a drive-through, like you said. That's an awesome idea.
Now,
I think that's one of the best ideas I've heard.
My
really.
CVS, my local CVS does have a drive-through for the pharmacy, not for the whole store, but does for the pharmacy. So not everyone around here.
Most of them do. And that would be an awesome idea. I wonder if we could call a few senators and state reps and suggest it and see what they think. I mean, I might even see if I can get word to Tom Cotton on this, because he's really smart and up there in Washington doing what he can. But he said rest assured that the tests are in the states now, so no worry on that. And he said it's going to get worse before it gets better, and to expect it to be, once they start running these tests, to expect it to be 10 times worse. So it's going to get pretty bad. So double your numbers in your state. And, that's what we're going to be looking at, because there's people that are probably walking around that don't even have it. My biggest issue is this morning with JetBlue. They had a gentleman get on the plane knowing he had it, sat down amongst passengers with his wife, and they got him, they pretty much quarantined him, but they let everybody on the plane loose. Now, that just really burns me up. They should have quarantined everybody on that plane. That is a closed area, and that's what's wrong with it spreading a lot of, because they're saying the ships and the planes and closed areas are the ones that are spreading these viruses. But JetBlue and I guess the feds basically just let all these people loose. So Who knows where these people live and if they have it or don't. And this just causes more problems. Now, Pence did say 13 international airports in the United States, or 13 airports with international flights are have got quarantine station and are checking people. But the problem is we have people fleeing Europe right now before tomorrow that are getting on these planes sick. I don't believe they should be letting these people go at the airport. If someone on the plane has it, they need to detain all of them. That is what our issue is with it spreading. And who knows? Now, they had statistics today that just for that one guy if he was able to infect anybody around him, one person could possibly infect 113 people. Now, think of how scary that is. And
and then when each of them.
Yeah.
Well, you keep here. I've heard this over and over again that we are 6 degrees of separation from the whole world. If you watch something that gets shared a lot and goes viral on YouTube, it's interesting to see how quickly it comes back into your inbox.
Mm-hmm.
Or not on Facebook.
I'm really hoping that they'll see their error today and stop, if anybody has it on the plane, just to quarantine everybody. Yeah, everybody should understand across the world that if you are in close
proximity,
with anybody like that, in a plane, on a boat, in a school, in an office building, you really should expect to be quarantined. And especially if you're fleeing Europe. And, they should understand this. I mean, it might be an inconvenience, but we really do need to, put up with the quarantine. I would, if I happen to be, infected with it or be around somebody that happened to be infected, I would expect self-quarantine, and we really do need to put the word out that these people just need to accept it. It's just wrong.
I've been hearing that some stores are out of rubbing alcohol, but let me tell you again, the recipe that I saw online a couple of days ago, it was 1 part rubbing alcohol, and you want at least 70% rubbing alcohol, preferably the 90%, to 2 parts aloe vera gel, which will help soften it. That's an interesting, Gloria. You're saying 3/4 alcohol to 1/4 aloe vera. I had heard it the other way around. And I also heard somebody on YouTube yesterday was suggesting that you add a little bit of hydrogen peroxide. Did not give a percentage or any kind of measurement on what to add, but that's a good thing. Now, and they said that you can add essential oils to it. Now, lavender oil is very healing, so is lemon oil. A lot of the essential oils are, and I'm not talking about grocery store quality, I'm talking about the therapeutic grade, not just what you get in the store. But don't forget, Thieves Oil was what kept the whole reason Thieves Oil has that terminology is because it's cinnamon, clove, lemon, maybe. There are 4 oils that are in Thieves Oil, and if you can get your hands on Thieves Oil, especially a therapeutic grade Thieves Oil, and rub it on yourself. The whole story behind Thieves Oil was during the Black Plague in the Middle Ages, there were 4 thieves who, I know this is tradition, but the story goes that there were 4 thieves in Italy that were robbing people that were dropping dead. And they were getting quite wealthy with their theft, and they were not getting sick. And so the king, whether it was Italy or whatever European country it was, the king caught them. They were caught, and they came before the king, and they said he promised them, whether they were allowed to live afterwards or not, I don't know, but he promised them that they would be allowed to live if they would tell their secret. And so they said they were using this combination of oils, essential oils, and rubbing it on their body, and it provided protection. And so thieves oil is very, very good for any of these kinds of viral issues. The other thing is John G. Lake, near the beginning of the last century, was going around during the Spanish flu pandemic. He was going through hospitals and praying for people, and they were getting better. And he had the doctors actually rub mucus or something that from somebody who was very badly infected with this flu. And they could see under a microscope. They put his hand or whatever under a microscope, rubbed this Spanish flu virus on him, and watched the flu cells die. And Jesus told us that greater things than he did shall we do also. And so, that's the importance of prayer, bathing yourself with prayer. So James is suggesting just taking the 91% alcohol, take a pinhole, punch a pinhole in the seal, and just use that straight on your hands. That's going to be very, very drying, which is why the aloe vera juice mixed with it is good, because you're getting a little bit of moisture with the aloe vera gel. So
one of the ladies, one of my viewers posted, well, she sent it to me in message. It was a recipe or the ingredients for the one with the alcohol and the
aloe vera
and the
peroxide.
Man, I'm losing my words today. And I posted it. So I do have it posted on my news page. I might just go ahead and pin it to the top of the page, because it's very important for everyone to get that. The other thing, not to change the subject, the other thing, I think you guys are really going to love this. And I had to call out to my friend in San Diego and see what she knew. And then I have a friend that's on the military base there in San Diego, and I talked to him a little bit on this, and it sounds like it's for real. There's a lawsuit filed against L.A., Los Angeles. It's for Skid Row and the homeless. And the thing with this, they call it a crisis, because there is 61,000 people now that are homeless in Los Angeles. And they're moving them to keep them from being seen, is what I'm being told. The big thing on it was the feds looking at Newsom and saying, where's the money that they have been given to take care of the homeless?
$40,000 per person.
Right. Well, he passed the buck to Congress in their district, the senator, and the mayor. And the one thing that struck me that they did was, now they're pointing fingers at Congress on this. And guess whose district it is?
Maxine Waters.
Maxine Waters. They're looking at Maxine Waters and saying, where did the money go?
How much of it is going to have filtered through her account?
Yeah. No wonder she's got all those nice clothes all of a sudden. And see, this is they basically are saying that she has to provide beds, shelters. It doesn't matter if it's going to be tent cities or if it's a building. They need to get it immediately. They're considering this a crisis. And they won't get no more federal funding at this point until they find out, one, where the money is went, and they have a cover over their heads due to 10% of the 61,000 are children under the age of 15 years old. So, yeah, I think this is serious. I think they're finally going to do something about Skid Row. And maybe San Francisco's next. But yeah, it all pointing down to Maxine Waters. And so I said, well, can we get someone over to check out her office, because she wasn't answering the phones. And the office is closed today.
The DC office or the
Maxine Waters' office is closed today.
in DC or the local office?
No, the local one in down there in her district. Because I tried calling. I was going to try to see if I could get a statement, but they're not answering the phones. It goes to the that they have they're referring you to leave a message, and of course it's full because everybody's probably calling her today. But this is great news, and I think this is a start. And I think Minneapolis and Chicago and quite a few other places, the major cities, we need to start doing something about it.
When you think of the fact, I remember 30 years ago, my ex is a psychologist, and he was seeing the wife of a congressman, and she was complaining about how hard it was to live on the salary that they got because of all the parties that they have to buy new dresses for and so on. It just, and of course, this being a more expensive area to live, and the salary back then was a lot lower than it is now. But then you think about what they get for salary, and then all the insider trading that they do, and the the international funding that they get when they pass funding bills to help some poor country deal with something, and then the money doesn't go anywhere but into their own pockets, and the pockets of the elite in the country being helped, and how little goes to help the people that they were raising the money for. So when you think of all the millions of dollars that they have, it's too bad that they care so little for anyone but themselves, that they will not just, don't you think people would vote for them in droves if they took some of their millions and actually did something for the people with it?
Mm-hmm.
And say, look what I did for you. Oh my goodness.
Just think if she would have filtered that money down to finding shelter for the homeless, all those closed out buildings in LA over the last, oh my goodness, since Rodney King, that when they burnt all them buildings out, and they've never really replaced a lot of those, or even businesses have not really made it. They could be opened and beds could be put in there, and they could be getting the homeless off the streets. It's just sad that the children have to go through this. And I have heard of stories of children that live in cars with their parents. And the question is, okay, why don't they just drive the car and get out of LA? Well, for one thing, they don't have no money. When you're homeless, they're having problems getting funding because they don't have an address. They can't just drive to Arizona. They just can't. And they're stuck. And that's what even happens in Chicago. You ask why these people still in Chicago. The same reason. They just no money to be able to get themselves out of the rut they're in. And it's so sad to hear families sleeping in like a van with no gas. And when they're told to move, the whole family's pushing the van down the street around the block to be able to sleep in it again and use it as a home. And hopefully they don't get towed. This shouldn't be happening to the kids here. If Maxine Waters, Pelosi, Newsom, any of them would at least sign some type of bill with all the rest of the stuff they want to waste money on to get the shelter, they wouldn't have these kids on the streets. It just really, Beth would know. That's my sister Beth that just said about the kids. So she would know a lot more what's going on in California than me. We really do need to do something with the homeless across America. And I've been hoping Trump would start something. And I think this is the ball rolling on LA to start, because they're one of the first. And, I thought a couple thousand, but when I heard 61,000 is on the streets and they're calling this a crisis, yes, it should have been a crisis at 10,000 on the streets. But how many of those are illegals? We just don't know.
Laura says we send so much aid to foreign countries.
Yes, we do.
I'm going to remind everybody that when that aid is sent to a foreign country, the leaders keep a large portion of it for themselves and kick back a large portion to our Congress people, representatives and senators who have voted to send that money. And so most of the money is used in bribes and kickbacks, and very little for anything.
Mary Ellen, did you hear Giuliani's newest?
I heard the first half, and then we had our call last night, and I haven't gotten back to the last half.
He was talking, with that foreign aid that it, like you said, it goes to the dictator usually, and the Congress, and then you've got the NGOs in the middle of it, and then there's nothing left.
And then the $5.3 billion is missing. Yes, Soros's NGOs got a huge portion of that money, maybe $1 billion of it. And the embassy, the ambassador, the people working at the embassy got a whole bunch of that. So they went from 5.3 billion. I think there's still 3.5 billion that they have not been able to account for.
Yeah.
They're finding some of it went to Soros's NGOs and some of it went to the ambassador. So, our president did the right thing in kicking Maria Abramovich. Is that what her? No, it wasn't Abramovich. Anyhow, you know who I'm talking about. She was there at the embassy in Ukraine. He did the right thing in firing her.
Well, all of them, even when Chalupa was let go. And that was part of that Ukraine show me and my brother Larry did. I mean, if you guys can grab our Ukraine show, it's so informative of what was going on. And these NGOs have got to be stopped. It's not just Ukraine they did this to. They do it to all the foreign aid. And I wouldn't be surprised if they haven't got their foot in the middle of, with Soros, in the middle of even our tax money to the different cities in our own country, because he is one of the biggest charities that's being used, his and the Clintons, and not just in our country, but all over the world. And they're the first one to be in there in a disaster. And, when Tennessee got hit, the first thing I thought of is, how much do you want to bet? Clinton Foundation is right there. They're first in. They're always first in. And I was wondering where they went after Puerto Rico. And so I'm snooping around Tennessee to see what foundations showed up to help Tennessee.
Do they help or they just collect money?
Well, they raise money, and then of course they only have to give 25%. So of course they're going to swoop in. Then they're going to give the people of Tennessee 25% of what they raise to help Tennessee. It's going to be the big feel sorry for Tennessee and the people, and we want to help them, and we do good, and we do food and clothing and all that, and then they give them 25% and they walk away with 75%, and they just made a killing. And they do this all the time with any disaster. And Soros does too. In fact, a lot of your charities do that. You look at it, like if you see a charity foundation that you want to give to, please look at how much they actually give, because they're only, by law, they're only required to give 25%, and they get the rest. And it's so disheartening to see that a lot of these foundations, these charities will do that. I mean, I used to put a bunch of money in these jars at the supermarket till I went and looked at actually how much they were giving. And back then it was 10 and 15%. At least now the law's requiring them to do at least 25. And you really, really have to watch out when you give to these charities. And it's better to give through a church charity than, a well-known charity, because the church is more willing to give a lot more of the goods than just the money.
And the people that distribute it themselves. But I mean, even some of the Christian organizations, you have to watch very carefully how the money is distributed, because I mean, I've heard, I'm not going to name names, but I've heard about organizations where the founder did what was right, and then when he and his wife died, the people who took over was not a relative who was participating in doing good, and the people who took over are collecting millions of dollars and putting it into fabulous buildings out in the boonies. And I mean, it's not getting to the people as it used to. So
yeah, the churches are way more safer to give to than the foundations or the charities. Haiti, Haiti. That was almost like the Ukraine thing, where it was finally being exposed of how the Clinton Foundation worked. And then for them openly to say, yeah, we paid for our daughter's wedding with it, thank you. Well, that just was not right. They should have known. And they should have went back, and they should have put up at least the housing they promised. I just feel when they did that, to me it was another whitewater. They scammed a whole bunch of people and out of money, and they didn't get nothing out of it. Because those little sheds they gave them were like these Lowe's house-looking sheds. They weren't very big, and they weren't very livable. And, it's just sad. And it was all to be able to put her brother in charge of, I think, what was it, a gold mine in Haiti on the opposite side of the island. The money they got, they put into the other side of the island, which wasn't even affected. And then put thousands of people to work over there and claimed they helped the island. And they really didn't. Here, the other side of the island was in shambles and didn't get the help. And, of course, they walked away with all the money. Not to mention, I think even Jason Goodman had it on his show, of a gentleman that I believe his daughter was part of the child trafficking off the island, and she was caught doing it. And I keep looking for that, because I'd love to hear the details from this man again. And I caught it one day, and I thought I'd saved it, and I can't find it. But there you go, Laura Silsby. That's her. Thank you, Laura. And I believe it was her dad. I'm pretty sure it was on Jason Goodman, and had explained everything she had done and how horrible it was. So not only did they rip off the bad side of the island, they left them with nothing. They didn't give them anything to help. Then they took the money to the other side of the island, only to siphon off the resources. And I wouldn't be surprised if they haven't got either gas or oil companies going up as well. And her brother's the one that's in, that's making the money, continuously making the money. Just like Joe Biden's son for Ukraine. They find the resources in these countries, and then they give it to, it's like, hey, we'll have our son or our cousin or our brother or anybody they can to help make rich, siphon off these resources, and they get millions. And of course, they put it through Cyprus, they put it through Italy. I mean, Giuliani has even said that. They siphon it through these small countries and they walk away with the billions. And it's so, so sad to see this happen.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the money that I've donated a lot of times and that I watch my parents donate would go directly to, sometimes they would support missionaries, but they would send the money directly to the missionary without even going through the parent organization. And certainly so much is going through that you put through churches. There's more hands-on control when a church distributes the funds, because they're very much involved with the people. But I'll tell you, this trafficking issue, I mean, I'm not going to go into that, but it just gets very dangerous to do that. You guys hear enough about that from others, but
yeah.
And there is a Mormon couple who have adopted a lot of kids out of Haiti themselves, and it's one, I cannot remember the name. Is it UNO? I don't remember the name. Anyhow, I'm surprised that's just off the tip of my tongue, missing. But they've done a lot in helping stop the trafficking and finding out. They've done a lot of undercover work and from Haiti and helping to find homes for the orphans that have lost their parents because of the earthquake and are looking for homes. So yeah, Better Business Bureau would certainly have a lot of information on what you're looking for to know how to donate legitimately. I mean, I heard horror stories after the flooding in Houston about what the Red Cross was doing. People were coming from churches with food and water and setting up, feeding booths with sandwiches and grilling hamburgers and stuff, and they confiscated it and threw it all out. And people were coming with clothes to donate, and the Red Cross was taking it and throwing it in the trash again. And the competition.
Arkansas had a lineup of buses and all kinds of help, and they would not let us into the state. They turned us back. We had the mobile homes, modular homes, like tons of them, and they went to waste because we couldn't get them into to help the Katrina victims. And they had so many buses that was willing to transport from Katrina up to Houston, and they wouldn't let them in. They just wouldn't let them in. And it was FEMA. According to what we found out here, it was FEMA that was turning everybody back and rejecting any type of food, clothing, toiletries, everything, all the aid that we were trying to get in. They turned us away. And it upset the governor here and many, many people in churches because we had so much to give.
Who was president then? Who was president then?
I'm not sure. Maybe Obama. It was either Bush or Obama. I'm trying to think of who flew over. I
It was
believe it might have been
Obama.
Bush.
And don't forget Bush was, he's New World Order globalist. But yeah. This whole running into the end of time, kind of interesting. Well, we're 5 minutes away from being at the end of the show here, so I will let you wrap up, and I've got the directions for donating. If you want to donate anything to help Larry, he remains out of commission and unavailable to talk. I sent another text yesterday, and of course got no answer. And the governor of California was praising the president. Boy, no, I didn't hear that. Sherry said Katrina was 2005, so that would have been under Bush. But we know the Bushes are very globalist. So yes, the Congress and Senate have all kinds of benefits that they get that the country doesn't get. And this is what Larry has said over and over and over again, that Alexander Tytler, Tytler, look it up on Google it. Google his name, Alexander Tytler. He said the problem with the democracy, and we're not a democracy, even though people keep saying we are, we're a republic. The problem with the democracy is it always ends up in a dictatorship. It always fails. Because as soon as you get a 51% majority, that majority realizes that they can vote to themselves largesse, which our Congress has done. And then it's just a matter of time before they have so much control, the people rebel, and then they have to go under, it causes chaos, and they have to go under a dictator to rein it in. So, yeah, I've heard that, Stormy, that the University of North Carolina, actually I heard that Fort Detrick in Frederick, Maryland, developed the virus and had testing done by the University of North Carolina. Obama supposedly sold it to China, and there was a Chinese scientist who was working at University of North Carolina. That's the story I've heard. Now, whether it's true or not, I hate to be repeating a rumor, but since it's in the chat and you brought it up, it's, I'll just take it a little further to what I had heard. But, here again, rumors are flying about what's causing all this and what does it mean. And, nobody wants to say that they have proof and here's their proof and tell you where the proof is. They just want to say, my source says, and I have a good source, but I can't give his name. I certainly know when Larry tells us sources. If you listen to who he's describing and what he says about it, he does get that, as far as I know, Stormy. Thank you. When Larry is describing and he talks about different people, there's a good chance I can't prove it, but there is a very good chance from the time I have listened to him, it seems to me that the people he describes as people he has talked to. So that's an assumption on my part, but I think it's an educated guess. So, he would deny it, I'm sure, if you asked him. And he has said that he would deny who he works with. But, put two and two together, folks. So, all right. Thank you all. We're going to end this now. We went over a little bit yesterday, especially since I had trouble the other day with getting the thing shut down because my computer froze up. So we took extra time on that. So thanks a lot for being here. We will be back tomorrow. And if you want to, I can't put it in the chat, but if you want to join us for prayer right now, the number is 712-451-0725. The access code is 492-215#. There was a hit ordered on Larry in December. His wife got the flu. He got it very bad. And my understanding is he ended up in the hospital, but I don't know. And he was certainly under The last time I talked to him, he called to ask for money to hire a guard. And what's happened since then, I don't know. So I don't know. So this is my alarm saying it's time for the conference call number. So, but I know in 2018 there was a chance that that person that you suggest there, Amanda, was involved in hiring the hits that came against him in 2018. There was a country involved that we know that person had a lot of connection to. So where the money actually came from or whether it was siphoned through, I don't know. But appreciate your prayers for Larry. So I'm going to hang up so that I can get on the conference call line and we can have prayer together. So thanks for being here. We'll talk tomorrow. God bless you. Bye.